I think we're getting to a point where people are starting to confuse vibes with actual masterpiece game design. And Mixtape might be one of the clearest examples of that I've seen in an incredibly long time. Because according to IGN and dozens of other outlets, Mixtape is one of the best games ever made. They call it a new standard for coming-of-age stories. So of course, I had to check out the game for myself. And after playing it, I can come to one simple conclusion. There is no fucking way that this is a 10 out of 10. But don't get me wrong, I think Mixtape has style, I think the intro is incredibly cool, I think it looks visually stunning, I think the presentation works, I think the soundtrack is pretty good, and I think there's a lot of very interesting moments. But is it really a game, or is it an interactive movie? And when you really come down to it, are the people looking at it based on what the game actually is, or what they're feeling because of whatever memories are coming back to them? And I think that's where a lot of the controversy around this game is coming from. Because when you strip away the music, the coming-of-age themes, and the indie presentation, I don't think the actual gameplay here comes anywhere close to a 10 out of 10 experience. And honestly, I think Mixtape opens up a much bigger conversation about modern game criticism in general, about whether we're starting to overvalue presentation and emotional resonance while completely ignoring whether the game itself is actually doing anything interesting at all in terms of being a game. If you paid attention to the online discourse with Mixtape, this game is blowing up everywhere. You got people on one side saying it's the most amazing, most magical, most unbelievable experience they've ever had in a game. They're crying, they're sobbing, they can't believe something touched them so personally. Then you got people on the other side claiming that everything about the game is disgusting, that it's woke, that it's DEI. You got Asmongold freaking out that there's a makeout scene for some reason. You got people claiming it's a pedophile experience. You got people saying the soundtrack sucks. You got people saying all these things. That's fine. There's people who are right on both sides, but nobody is right that this is a 10 out of 10. And that's one of my main things that I'm having an issue with when it comes to this game. By claiming that Mixtape is a 10 out of 10, you are saying that it is among one of the greatest games ever made, because people don't hand out 10s all willy-nilly. You don't see everything getting a 10. There are a lot of games that get a 10, but usually when something gets a 10, it's because it absolutely deserves it. Not only does it have style, it plays wonderfully, it has a fantastic story, it has characters that you attach to, the gameplay drives it home, basically. And Mixtape doesn't have that, because it doesn't really have gameplay. And it doesn't really have a story that you haven't seen dozens of times before. By calling this a 10, you're saying it's one of the greatest stories that you've ever experienced. It's one of the greatest coming-of-age stories ever written. That's what you're saying by saying it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. And there's a lot of comparisons by people saying, like, this is very similar to Ferris Bueller's. This is very similar to The Breakfast Club. This is like a John Hughes movie, except it's 2026. And I'll tell you what, have you seen a John Hughes movie? Because this is not like that at all. The characters in John Hughes movies feel like real characters. Sometimes they're over the top, sometimes they're over exaggerated, but there's an emotional through line from start to finish of how their characters go up and down. And in Mixtape, what you got is there's characters, some of them that have some sort of problem, and then you have a clearly autistic person coming in being like, well, I'm sorry that your problem is like that, but you know what song would go perfect with this situation? A classic hit from 1968. Shut the fuck up. The main character's honestly pulling away from so many emotional beats to just insert some random fact about some bullshit song from 1975 that nobody gives a fuck about. And nobody in real life acts like that unless you got the tiz and you're straight up on the spectrum. And that's kind of what this game feels like it's about. I get that there are a lot of people forming some sort of connection to this game, and maybe a guy's got the autism too, because nobody acts like this in real life. So one of the characters, Cassandra, her dad is a cop, and the cop goes around town and he's like, fuck these dumb kids, and he hates them because like they're troublemakers and shit like that. They're rebels. They listen to music and they go outside. Ugh. So she's like, I want to be like them too, because fuck my parents, I'm gonna be a rebel, and then I'm gonna go to college in California because fuck staying near these people. And then, you know, that's a real problem. And there's a lot of people who probably connect to this character because they've experienced the same thing. They're from a small town, they have overprotective parents, they want to get out and experience the world for what it is, have their own experiences, be their own person. Now her best friend is just like, well, this song, this perfectly fits this. Well, I don't really care about your road trip that you want to do because I have a perfectly planned out mixtape that fits what I want, and I don't give a shit about what you want. Dumb. Things get resolved way too quickly. When I sat down to play Mixtape, I expected to be blown away from the second I started the game because of how many insanely good things I heard about this game. And while the start does have great style, this game is full of style. As soon as you start the game, you're like, wow, this is set up like a movie. It has shots like a movie, the camera's like a movie, the first skateboarding section feels like the introduction to a movie. And the more that happens, you really come to the conclusion that I'm not playing a game. I'm watching a movie. And yeah, I get a little bit of input, and yeah, I get to see a little other things that would have been cut from a movie because the game ends up being around 3 hours long, and they wouldn't make a movie like this that's 3 hours 100%. They might make a Netflix show that's 6 hours or whatever about something like this, and I could see it definitely getting picked up by Netflix and becoming the next big Netflix hit or whatever, but it's not really a game. And you discover that very, very quickly. I'm watching a story unfold before me. It has all the tropes of coming of age stories. It has all the moments that you would expect from every other coming of age story, and it doesn't really hit them as well. And then it has some things that are like fantastical, where you're floating through the air, you're on this car that flies and you see the fireworks and stuff. And there's these moments that happen that feel like they could be more exciting gameplay moments because everything is tied to music. So you'd think that in a lot of these music sections, at least you'd be doing some like rhythm game type things. Like for example, there's a part where you're skateboarding down and the main character's pissed and she's like, fuck these trash cans, and you can like blow them up. But they don't blow up in time with the music. You're not supposed to time anything to the music. So as a drummer, that also feels fucking weird because the beat is going like doom, 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 doom. So you think, okay, on doom, I'm in a boom, so it'll make an extra big impact, but it doesn't. It comes off cue, which then fucks up with the music. And then as a drummer, you're like, that doesn't sound right. So it doesn't even really respect the music side because you don't throw an off beat into a song because then it makes the song not sound great. So they fuck up that part too. It's just in no way a 10 out of 10. I don't understand. The people who played this game and had a 10 out of 10 experience are not judging the game as a 10 out of 10 experience. They're playing the game and then thinking back to their own experiences when they were like 18 or whatever, going, oh my God, I remember when I was a kid and I ran away from home and we hung out in the woods and drank beer and broke bottles and like, you know, we got high or whatever like that. Like that's what they're thinking of. And they're going, oh, my memories, my nostalgia, my 10 out of 10 life. That's what they're doing. The game is not doing that. None of the characters are as well defined as Joel, as Arthur Morgan, as any of the characters from Expedition 33, as Kratos. None of them. The story doesn't go through the emotional beats of any of those games. The soundtrack doesn't hit as hard with the songs that play as in any other, like, you know, when That's the Way It Is kicks in during Red Dead Redemption 2, you're like, oh my God. And you're just like, with Arthur Morgan, you're going on your horse, and you're just like, oh my God. The feelings just hit you like a wave. This game, you're like, this song is from 1981, and all of my friends listened to it, and it was from the first time that I ever walked out of school because I said, fuck you to the teacher. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Imagine just sitting with your friends and one of your friends is like, hey man, I'm going through a really tough time right now. Like, my parents are getting divorced and like everything feels like shit and I want to cry and whatever. And then your friend's like, yeah, fuck, but you know what would really like fit perfectly with that? Like when you're at home crying, if you were like listening to like When Doves Cry by Prince, like, isn't that amazing? You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about, right? What are you talking about? It's just the whole experience just feels like it's like, sure, the presentation's nice. It's building up to moments that you've seen before and everything else. Like you already know it's three friends. They're coming to like a conclusion. One of the friends is leaving and she's the main character. They all plan to do a road trip to California. The main character's like, fuck that. I'm gonna go to New York and I'm gonna give this music person my mixtape and they're gonna hire me and I'll be the greatest musician curator to ever exist. Dumb. It's kind of like there's some scene from Euphoria that's been passed around on like Twitter and Reddit recently where one of the girls from Euphoria, I don't know the fucking characters, but whatever, she like goes to LA and she like sees an agent and she's like, I want to work for you. Watch, I'll answer your phone. This is whatever speaking. And I just watched that scene and I was like, who the fuck watches this garbage, man? It's stuff that's made for people who haven't seen enough movies, who haven't read enough books, and who haven't watched enough TV. So they think that mediocre garbage is good. That's what this is. This is not garbage. It's a decently good game. It's a fun experience. It's a decent story. It's a 7.5 out of 10. At the maximum, a 7.5 out of 10. You've played better interactive movie experiences like this, guaranteed. You've played better games than this, guaranteed. You've seen better movies than this, I hope. And you've watched better TV and you've read better books, I hope. This is for people who, for example, they think like CW shows are like the best show ever. It's like people who are like, oh my God, the greatest movie of all time is The Dark Knight. And all that says to me is you've seen 10 movies, man. And all of them are Marvel. or DC movies or something like that, because that ain't the truth, man. And that's what this game is. If you played it and you thought it's a 10 out of 10, you are not judging the game as a 10 out of 10. You're judging your life experiences as a 10 out of 10. And all this game is doing is making you think of those experiences. The characters in this don't deserve a 10 out of 10. The soundtrack doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10. The whole experience doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10. I won't stand for it, if I'm being honest. I cannot believe it. It is not a bad game. It is worth playing on Game Pass. You might as well check it out, but there's no fucking way this is a 10 out of 10, dude. Watch more, play more, experience more, because this is not what you're looking for. Guaranteed.